The last time I saw my father alive, I shook his hand, like a business meeting. He was 73 years old. I was 45. We were standing in his driveway after a Sunday dinner. He was moving well, seemed healthy, had no particular reason to expect anything other than the ordinary continuation of his ordinary life. I shook his hand. He shook mine. I got in the car and drove away. He died 3 days later. Heart attack. In his sleep. No warning, no preparation, no chance for anything other than whatever had already been said. And what had already been said in 45 years of being his son was nothing. Nothing that actually mattered. My name is Arthur. I am 85 years old. My father's name was Robert. He was a machinist. Quiet, hardworking, responsible, deeply committed to his family in the way that men of his generation expressed commitment through provision and reliability, not through words or demonstration. He was not an affectionate man. Not cold but not warm in any expressed way. He did not say, "I love you." He did not hug easily. He communicated through action, being there, providing, showing up rather than through anything you could hear or hold. I was shaped by him. In more ways than I understood until it was too late to tell him so. I want to ask you about your father, or if your father is gone, about the version of him you carry. What do you know about what he felt about you? Not what he did for you, what he felt, what you meant to him, what it was like from the inside to be your father. For most men I have known, this question produces a specific kind of uncertainty. They know what their fathers did. They know the practical history, the providing, the showing up, the structure of a childhood that someone built and maintained. But what their fathers actually felt, the interior experience of fatherhood, the specific love or pride or fear or hope that existed beneath the practical surface that is often genuinely unknown, because it was never said. Men of a certain generation and men of many generations do not say those things. The saying of them is associated with weakness, with excess, with something that sits outside the acceptable emotional register of a man doing his job. And so the things that are felt are not said. And the sons grow up knowing they were provided for, but not knowing whether they were cherished. And the fathers die having provided for everything except the one thing their sons most needed to know: that they mattered, specifically, personally, in a way that had nothing to do with their performance. I grew up in that particular silence, and I perpetuated it. My father was a man of almost complete emotional inexpression. He was present, he was there. Every evening, every weekend, every school play and graduation and important occasion. He did not drink heavily or disappear into any of the usual escapes. He was simply there, providing the structure. And inside that structure, I grew up genuinely uncertain about something that no child should be uncertain about. Whether my father liked me, not loved, love I assumed, in the abstract, general way, but liked. Whether he found me interesting, whether spending time with me was something he enjoyed or something he endured as part of the job, I never asked, and he never told me. We moved through 45 years of a relationship that was, on the surface, functional and warm and without significant conflict. We talked about sports and work and practical matters. We were comfortable in each other's presence, but we never went beneath the surface, not once in 45 years. I told myself this was normal, that this was how men related to their fathers, that the depth I was missing was something I was perhaps romanticizing, that real relationships between men were like this, present and functional and not particularly expressed. 3 days after that handshake in the driveway, my father was gone. And I found myself at 45 years old with a grief that surprised me by its complexity. Not just the grief of loss, but the grief of incompletion, of a conversation that had been waiting for 45 years and that had now been permanently foreclosed. I had things I had meant to say, not complicated things, not long speeches or carefully constructed declarations, just "I love you" and "thank you." And I turned out to be who I am partly because of you. And I see that now in ways I didn't when I was young, and I am proud to be your son. Those words existed. I had felt them for years. I had never found a way to say them in a register that felt available to the men we were. Never found an opening in the grammar of our relationship for that kind of directness. And now the opening was permanently closed. I drove to his house the week after the funeral. My mother let me into his study, a small room, organized in the careful way he organized everything. His tools in the garage, his papers in the desk, everything in its place. And I sat in his chair, and I talked to him, out loud, in an empty room for about an hour. I said the things I had not said. All of them, with no particular elegance, in the stumbling way of a man who has no practice with this kind of speaking. It helped, and it didn't help, because the room was empty, because he could not hear me, because the 45 years had ended in a handshake and nothing in that room could change it. I drove home and made a decision. I would not make the same mistake with my own children. I want to talk about the inheritance of silence, because what my father gave me, in addition to everything else, in addition to the stability and the provision and the genuine love expressed through action, was also this: the model of a man who does not speak his inner life, who shows but does not say, who loves deeply and expresses it only through what he does rather than what he communicates. And I inherited that model, absorbed it so completely that it did not feel like a choice. It felt like the natural way of being a man, of being a father, of being in relationship with the people I loved. And the inheritance was costly, not because my children did not feel loved. I believe they did. I showed up, I provided, I was there. But there were things I felt about them, specific, personal, genuine things that I did not say for years, because the saying of them felt foreign, uncomfortable, in violation of some unwritten rule about the kind of man I was. The pride I felt when my son navigated something difficult. The specific, almost overwhelming love I felt watching my daughter become a person. The gratitude, raw and genuine, that I was their father. I felt all of it. I said almost none of it. Until, after my own father's death, I understood what that silence cost. And I started slowly, imperfectly, to break the inheritance. Not dramatically, not with speeches or performances, with small, consistent acts of saying the thing instead of just feeling it. A phone call that ended with "I love you." A letter to my son on his 40th birthday that said specifically what I was proud of and why. A conversation with my daughter where I told her, in actual words, what she meant to me. It felt strange. It felt like speaking a foreign language. And the responses I got, the specific quality of the silence on the other end of the phone before my son said "I love you" back, the way my daughter held the letter when she read it, told me that the strangeness was worth every bit of its discomfort. Because they had been waiting, the way I had waited, for the words to arrive. I want to say something about what we owe the people we love, not practically, not materially, emotionally. We owe them the knowledge that they are loved, not assumed, not implied, known, in the specific, direct, unambiguous way that only words can convey. Because actions, however consistent and genuine, leave room for interpretation. A child can receive a lifetime of provision and still wonder in the quiet places whether they were cherished, whether they were liked, whether the person who showed up for everything actually wanted to be there. Words close that room, a specific, personal, genuine statement of love and appreciation and pride said directly, said clearly, said without the cushion of irony or practicality that closes the room. It leaves nothing to wonder, and the people you love deserve to not have to wonder. Your children deserve to not have to wonder. Your parents, if they are still here, deserve to not have to wonder. The people who matter to you deserve the words, not just the actions. And the words cost almost nothing to give, except the discomfort of saying them, which is, in the end, the cheapest price there is. I want you to think about one person, someone who deserves to hear something true from you, something you feel but have not said, something that has been waiting, perhaps for years, for the right moment or the right words or the right level of comfort. I want you to say it, not in a text, not in an email, in a conversation, voice to voice if possible. And I want you to be specific. Not "I love you" generally, as people say at the end of phone calls. Something specific, something that could only be said to this person about this specific thing you feel or know or appreciate about them. I am proud of you because I want you to know that you, something I have never told you, is whatever is true. Say it. You may feel ridiculous. The other person may be surprised. It may be awkward in the specific way that genuine things sometimes are. Say it anyway. Because my father died not knowing things I felt about him, And I spent 40 years hoping my children would not have the same uncertainty about me. I got to fix that, partially imperfectly late. You may still have the chance to get ahead of it entirely. Take it. Tell me in the comments, is there something you have been meaning to say to someone? Not the general version, the specific one. Write it here if you cannot yet say it to them. Because sometimes putting it into words, even here, even anonymously, is the first step to finding a way to say it where it needs to be heard.